Be baptized. Christian Questions, Sunday, 6 to 7 a.m. on the Big 550 KTRS.
And we are back on the Big 550 KTRS. I feel a little sacrilegious after that Christian Questions spot going right into the Imperial March, the Darth Vader theme song. But we were just talking about the potential box office take for the upcoming Star Wars The Force Awakens. And I'm joined now by someone who was just talking a little Star Wars this morning on his radio show. I'm, of course, talking about my good friend BK on the air, listening to him this morning on the TuneIn app, WBHF, out of Atlanta. He's got 1450 AM and the brand new snazzy 100.3 FM. BK, thanks for coming on tonight.
Hey, good evening, KTRS and James. How you doing, buddy?
Just fine, just fine. So I heard you were talking this morning about this Star Wars, about the release that George Lucas was planning on doing, not planning on doing. Tell the listeners who didn't get the chance to listen to you a little bit about that.
Well, you know, the rumor's been going around for a couple of years now since I think Disney has taken over a lot of the Lucasfilm stuff and kind of owns Star Wars now, or most of it. And, you know, we'd heard over and over again that the original theatrical releases of Star Wars, the unaltered ones, as I like to call them, the ones without the snazzy CGI effects added, the ones that we all grew up watching in the theater.
Sure.
That they were going to re-release those on Bluray, or re-release them for the first time on Blu-ray, and possibly release them in the theaters, by the way. And that comes from John Landis. Director John Landis was at a Q&A down at the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. And he said that, and he was quoted as to saying that, and so was Empire Magazine. And John Landis says his good friend George told him that. George, as in George Lucas, is what we're reading.
Well, now he's friends with George Hamilton, too, so maybe we're reading into this. You know, maybe it was...
That's right. It could very well be George Hamilton, too.
That's
You're right.
Well, that would be very exciting, because I remember seeing the updated versions when they came out in 97 for the original trilogy, and those were pretty cool. I still... You know, it's the nostalgic in me, but I still like the original. I have the original Empire Strikes Back on VHS, for crying out loud, that I still pop in and watch occasionally.
Well, you know, it never bothered any of us the way the Star Wars movies were to begin with. To us, they were kind of perfect in their own way. I didn't see any need to go back and change anything. You'd ask yourself, would anybody paint a smile on the Mona Lisa? You know, she's classic painted the way she is. Then again, someone would argue, would you argue with Leonardo da Vinci if he wanted to paint the smile on her? So I guess it's all creative control over films, I guess, and people want to go back and redo some things. But I personally love the originals the way they are.
Yeah, I agree. Some things don't need changing. I think that's kind of what Hollywood does these days. We see all these remakes and reboots of movies that aren't even that old, and it's almost like they've run out of fresh ideas. I don't mind it being as it was George Lucas who went in and changed his own movie. That's, you know, I don't have a problem with that per se, and I did think some of the special effects they did in the re-release of Return of the Jedi, where they showed, you know, the people on Coruscant celebrating and the big celebration on Endor, that was kind of cool, but changing up the David Prose as the ghost of Anakin Skywalker to put Hayden Christensen in, that was a big mistake, I think.
Right, and your guest that was on earlier was talking about the IMAX, a lot of the theaters not being able to show anything when Star Wars Episode 7 is released in December. We just learned, actually yesterday, and we had it on the show this morning, that they're actually planning on releasing it in several markets, Episode 7, the day before at 7 p.m. on the 17th.
Really?
So where you usually would have to see it midnight, the night of the release, or the early morning day of the release on midnight, there actually looks like they're going to release Episode 7 on December 17th at 7 p.m., which is the day before the real release. So everybody should look out for that unless that changes.
Yeah, it might give them a chance to get there a little early. I'm not sure if that'll be any less crowded than seeing it on a midnight show, but at least it'll span things out. Because I know I'm one of those people, before I started going and reviewing some of these movies, who would, you know what, that's going to be crowded. I'll wait a few weeks until it dies down to go see it. So I'm not sure if that'll, you know, maybe spread it out a little bit more.
I found in my older age now that I can wait now. I don't like fighting the crowds. I'm kind of grumpy old guy that I've turned into, or I'm like, oh, the crowds are driving me crazy. I'll give it a few days or whatever, but I don't know if I can hold out for it on episode 7 because there's a lot of buzz really surrounding that film. I understand some people are in line right now, by the way. I hope that the
I would not be surprised at all.
Right now, somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's called Occupy Star Wars, I think is what they're calling it. It's a whole movement. People are leaving college courses and just going to camp out for the theater.
That's right. Yeah,
that would not surprise me. I don't know. There are some movies because I agree with you. You know, I'm getting to that age where I'm like, the crowds. I don't want to see it. All the people. But there are some movies like we will be seeing Spectre on opening night. I guarantee it. We're going. The gentlemen of us who will be going will be in tuxes. I bought some Kino Lillet so I can actually have authentic Bond martinis before we go. So yeah, Spectre will be one of those movies I definitely go out to see opening night. Star Wars, as you said, will probably be another.
Yeah, please, everybody going to see Spectre like James is, if you're taking your Walther PPK with you, please have it peace bonded with the orange tip on it.
Right.
And it's not a real one before you go into the movie theater because that could be a problem.
Right, exactly. You might just want to leave any of the authentic prop pieces. You might want to leave those in your Aston Martin before you go in. So,
That's right. A lot of movies this year have been hits for us. I think every big blockbuster that I've seen or we've seen this year with BK on the air, we've enjoyed everything that we've seen so far, and that's very odd for us throughout the year. There's usually a clunker that'll come out every now and then. Now we're looking forward to Spectre and then Episode 7 in December, and then again we've got Star Trek Beyond, which is Star Trek's 50th anniversary is next year.
That's
so that's
right.
going to be another big year for movies next year, and they've changed the release date. They've moved it back a little bit for Star Trek Beyond next year.
Oh, and just next year is the year that anyone who's a geek like you and I will go broke because they've got Deadpool, they've got Captain America: Civil War, they've got Dawn of Justice. I mean, the amount of movies they're coming out with for catered to people like you and I it's insane.
It is, and a couple of weeks ago they did wrap principal photography on Captain America: Civil War in Berlin. I think they shot in Berlin, Germany for the final thing that they were doing, but they wrapped it up here in Atlanta. And I was down near Lucky Street and Pryor in an office building, and I got to see a couple of trucks being turned over and wrecked and whatnot from an office building window while they were filming, and it looks spectacular. That's really the big one I'm waiting for next year.
Yeah, that's going to be fantastic. I know I shouldn't do it, but I got into a debate with someone on Facebook, which is, like banging your head against the wall, because they commented that, Batman Dawn of Justice will be much better than Captain America Civil War. And people are feeling, I'm going to go see them both because I'm a comic book fan. I'm not necessarily a Marvel or DC fan, but people get in these entrenched mindsets. It's like, no, this one will be better. It's you haven't even seen the movie. It hasn't even come out yet. I honestly feel that Captain America 3 will be a more nuanced, well-balanced movie than Batman, because I kind of feel like DC and Warner Brothers are rushing to play catch-up, and they're shoehorning in a bunch of characters into this movie that don't need to be there just so they can say, oh, and this character's here. Where Captain America and the Marvel Cinematic Universe has set this up slowly over the course of the past 7+ years. Do you have any opinions one way or the other on which one, Batman versus Superman or Captain America, will be the bigger movie?
Well, I agree with you on a lot of that. They are kind of comparing apples and oranges when you're talking about the DC camp and the Marvel camp, but I think they're going to be two completely different movies. I know that just over a year ago, at one time, they had the exact same release date written down. I don't know if you remember that when that happened.
I do.
And they were waiting to see who was going to flinch on the release date, and it was actually DC changed the release date for Batman versus Superman. So I don't know if they thought, well, we can't go up against Captain America or whatever, but they are going to be two very different movies. I personally am a huge Captain America fan. I think this one has the potential of being the best Marvel movie yet from what I've heard. But, you've got Batman versus Superman, and this, I think the fact that no big DC movies have been out for a while. I think Man of Steel was probably the last big one that was out, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm forgetting, one of my Alzheimer's will make me do that.
No, I think it's either I think it was Man of Steel came after Dark Knight Rises, so I think you are correct.
So I think that they're going to really give us two bangs for their buck, and they're going to be two completely different movies, too. They're going to be two comic book movies, but one is going to be very dark. DC likes to do the dark thing and not have much humor in things, from what I understand, is the take they're going to go on this one. And then Captain America, I don't think it's going to be full of jokes, but it's going to be the same classic Marvel Cinematic Universe that we've come to know and expect.
Yeah, well, they are saying this one might be a little bit on the dark side. I know Kevin Feige, who's the producer or the overall mastermind of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has said Marvel won't go dark, but a major character died in a supporting character died in Avengers Age of Ultron, but they are saying a major character will die in Captain America 3. And if it's anything like the comics, technically it should be Captain America who dies, but they might mix it up.
Right, and you don't know what they're going to do because they don't always follow the comic stories. But,
sure.
But with a story like this one where heroes are fighting heroes on two different sides, it's probably going to have a dark turn to it. And there was a lot of that buzz going around at DragonCon here in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, by the way, as well.
Yeah, exactly. Now, mentioning DragonCon, thank you for bringing that up. That's you and I talked about that because that's one of the biggest conventions in the country throughout the whole year is DragonCon.
Second to only Comic-Con out in California. The Comic-Con is run by corporations, but DragonCon is run by the fans here on the East Coast in Atlanta. So this year, every year it gets bigger. This was the biggest DragonCon to date. There were 70,000-plus people in Atlanta for 4 days, spanning 5 or 6 hotels at this one. They also raised over $100,000 for the Lymphoma Foundation, and also the Atlanta Community Food Bank. They raised over $115,000. So DragonCon, I wanted to get that in there because they do a lot of charity work in Atlanta for stuff, and that's the actual numbers that actually came out on the press release that I just got last week.
Right, yeah, and that's amazing. I'm definitely going to come down next year because I've never been to DragonCon, and I think it's one of those things that everyone should go to from all the things I've seen, all the pictures online. And I know you said Commander Clark, your sidekick, is a little bit more into the cosplay and everything than you are.
He is. He went to several DC and Marvel comic shoots this year. He's got a Flash costume. He's got a great Batman and Captain America outfit. And when you're talking about cosplay on that level, we're talking about movie quality costumes. These aren't Party City, no offense to Party City rental places, but these aren't your grandfather's costumes on Halloween. They're very intricate, and they put a lot of time and effort into these costumes.
Yeah, I know I've gone online just because I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, man, I really need a really cool, because the only one I have right now, I've got a Bespin Han Solo costume that I got on.
That's a great one, though, the jacket one that he wears.
Yeah, exactly. That's always been my favorite of his costumes. That was like the Han Solo action figure I played the most with when I was a child, was that figure. But some of these costumes, man, I've seen these things go online. People are asking like $6,000 for some of these costumes. It's insane.
Well, some of these folks have to be engineers or scientists or something to do this, because some of the level of details that we saw on a lot of the Iron Man armor costumes and the RoboCop, those are costumes that take a lot of planning to go into to make these molds for these RoboCop and these Iron Man-like costumes. But they're there, James, and they're very professional, and they will blow your mind. You've got to come down to DragonCon next year. We've got to get you in down here. You've got to come and be on the show with us that Saturday. That would be great if we could do that.
That'd be great. I would love to do that, actually. Yeah, we're going to actually, speaking of cosplay, we're going to have the gentleman behind Ruthless FX who do fantastic helmets and masks and everything. I saw them at Gateway Geek Fest, and they had a Red Hood, a battle-damaged Red Hood outfit that I wanted to take home with me, but they said no, they're not going to let me do that. They'd call security if I tried to leave with it. So, but we're going to have them in studio next Saturday to discuss their props and everything like that, and all the things that they make and do, and some fantastic stuff. You can check them out at ruthlessfx.com. So have you ever cosplayed then, BK?
Yeah, I'm more of a smaller, less intricate level. I'm a little more into Star Trek than anything else, and I've got a pretty nice bomber jacket that William Shatner wore in Star Trek V. It's more of a variant of that red jacket they wore in The Wrath of Khan. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more of the bomber jacket that he and Scotty wore, where it's kind of open in the front, and it's a variant. And I like doing ones that are different than anybody else.
Right.
A lot of people, everybody can be a stormtrooper, but you're one of about 1,000 if you show up as a stormtrooper. So I like to wear ones that no one else sees sometimes, and that's always fun to get into Star Trek too.
Yeah, I agree. The more original they are, something you see that's unique, the better. Because I'm sure DragonCon was probably like this, but at Wizard World St. Louis, we had probably 1,000 different Deadpools running around.
That's right. Yeah, and we had a guy at DragonCon this year walking around with a cap and a handkerchief around his neck, and khaki pants, and a plastic bag with crackers painted green. He was Charlton Heston from Soylent Green. It was fantastic. Everyone knew exactly who he was, and it was great. That is
original. I've never seen one like that. That's fantastic.
It is great, and we had a great time. And I want to thank you again for coming on the show. I think it was a couple of weekends ago. You came on and reviewed The Visit for us, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I appreciate that.
Oh, no problem, no problem. I'm always happy to talk movies, absolutely. And, I appreciate your taking the time tonight on a Saturday night because you're an hour ahead of us, so it's almost midnight there. So thank you very much for calling into the show and talking geek with us.
Well, we always say we have Saturdays all sewed up like bookends. You've got the nights ready up there, and I've got the mornings 10 a.m. till noon Eastern on WBHF down here. We got all the geek talk covered on talk radio, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Exactly right. Yeah, and like I said, I heard the show this morning. It was fantastic. And if you, our listeners here in St. Louis, want to hear BK on the air, you can use that TuneIn radio app and just find him under WBHF. That's Whiskey Bravo Hotel Foxtrot. AM 1450 and the brand spanking new 100.3 FM. That's BK on the air. Saturday mornings, Eastern time, 10 a.m. till noon.
They can also find me on Facebook and SoundCloud. And, you guys are on TuneIn as well, I found out tonight. I thought you were only on iHeartRadio, but you guys are on the TuneIn app as well. At least on my tablet you are, so that's pretty neat.
And see, that's news to me. I don't even know these things, and I'm here on the radio station, so that's...
With all the apps and the computers... With all the apps and the computers, we can get our shows out like never before. I think it's great.
That's very true, very true. And also, you're on Twitter at BK on Air is your Twitter handle too, right?
That's correct. Yes, we're in the Twitter world as well, along with you guys, Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will let you get back to. I'm assuming you'll probably be crashing soon because, as I said, it's midnight. And if I wasn't here on the radio, I'd be crashing soon.
Well, I'm going to listen to the rest of your show, just like everybody else should be, and I'll probably crash out of that, but I'll still be tuned in, buddy.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it, and we'll definitely talk to you soon.
James T., always a pleasure. Talk to you later.
Thank you, BK. Take care. There he goes, BK on the air, folks. As I said, listen to him on the TuneIn Radio app out of Atlanta, Georgia, WBHF, AM 1450, 100.3 FM. And he's got the geek stuff covered every morning, and then you can tune in here, listen to us at night. It's perfect. We're way overdue for a break, which I'm going to take right now. We are going to come back with our friend Michael from, did you know there's a St. Louis Doctor Who Society? You will. We'll talk about that more after we come back.